Hello and welcome to our episode of FinTech Focus TV with me, Toby Babb. Today it's a double act. I'm delighted to welcome to the studio Steve Grob from
Hi, it's Toby. Good to meet you. We're all good, thank you.
How are you?
I'm very good.
See you. Quod Financial, a business I've been looking at for a long time, and absolutely thrilled to have you in the studio. There's lots of interesting things we're going to be talking about today. The OMS world, Steve, as you know, something I've been chatting about for donkey's years now. It's an area where it's been a personal position of fascination, and we've seen. I've always thought ebbs and flows in terms of who the winner in the space is, what's happening, where innovation goes, and it's sort of, in my mind, been a little bit quieter over recent years, but ready for a little bit of disruption. The future of building the OMS for today and tomorrow is very much what we're talking about here today. So, Steve, this is something you brought to my attention, had some chat about. I know it's something you're really excited about. I know you're excited about these guys as well. So tell us a little bit about, well, first and foremost, for those of you who we have, I know you've been on numerous episodes of FinTech Focus before, but just give a brief introduction of yourself and shape the conversation.
So Vision57, which I founded, has a very simple objective, right, Toby? It's how do we bring the cool, elegant, simple technology of our everyday lives into the clunky, creaky world of capital markets and trading. It's just as simple as that. And I think the reason the space is really interesting now is down to three things. So the first is the piece of elastic that anchors these heritage OMSs to the real world of trading today is just getting stretched kind of to breaking point, and you can put chewing gum and string around it all you like, but you're just tactically kicking the can down the road. And I think whilst people thought maybe 5 years ago that the bastions of these legacy platforms would crumble a lot quicker than they have, I think now is the time that they are, because people are really saying, we have to get ready for today and more importantly tomorrow. And the second reason is that, which is all tied into this build, buy, modify kind of debate. Where
we were at a fascinating event on that last week.
So vendors have recognized that they need to be a part of the ecosystem of their clients and not try and own it all. And to do that, you need the right kind of APIs and technology stack. And every firm claims an API, but when you get into the weeds, you really need, and Medan can talk more to this, the right sorts of APIs. And then the third factor is, we've seen the explosion of data in every industry. And, that's the same in cap markets and trading. And
as I always say on the show, just still very much catching up to other industries.
Absolutely, but it's coming. The train is coming. And you need an OMS that can ingest all this data so that you can start, and AI is just at the very, very beginning of a long journey, but you can start to then draw some intelligent inferences from that data. And so with that as a background, and then you go over and look at the legacy platform that you have, you really start to think, hey, we've got to find ways of changing this. And it's not easy, which Medan will be talking about, but it is happening today. And that's why I think the OMS space is really interesting right now.
Definitely. And Medan enter stage left. That's teed it up nicely for that, hasn't it? Tell us a little bit about Quod.
No, it's perfect. So Quod is a multi-asset order and execution management system. So we're a technology provider generally targeted on sell side, but we also have buy side clients as well. But really from a product perspective, what we've been trying to solve in the industry is the issue of how do you evolve in the OMS space? And how does sell side use different types of tooling, and how can you provide a product that delivers different types of tooling that give a kind of an integrated data automation multi-asset ecosystem? And I think the thing that struck me most about your point of defining legacy. You know, why would someone even refer to their system as legacy? If you're thinking of this
I think
question,
heritage is the politer word. But.
Well, but it's not. What's interesting is it's not about age of the platform.
Yes.
You know, we've been around for 14 years,
Yeah.
yet we're considered potentially the new kid on the block in terms of technology and what we're trying to achieve. And in fact, we were founded roughly the same time as many of our competitors. So legacy in many other industries is about the old boys. But I think if you think about the term legacy and what it means to people in the industry, what it actually means is the platform was designed for solving problems of the past.
Something else.
And those problems of the past were workflow.
Yeah.
You know, it's how, if I'm on my trading desk, I need a tool that allows me to address workflow. I need these particular workflows, front to middle, front to back. I need to book my orders. I think that's very much become an expectation.
Yes.
The modern problem, very simply, is data. Where am I getting my data from? How can I ingest vast volumes of data? How can I manipulate it and distribute it and analyze it and introduce the concept of AI or machine learning or automation? And that can be very simple. It doesn't need to be a scary use of AI.
Yeah.
But a very practical use of analytics or recommendations, and all of it sits on top of this framework of data. And the legacy platforms, what they really proved to people on the desk is they're just systems that weren't designed for the fundamentals of handling very large volumes of data across different asset classes.
And I think it's sort of testimony to that, and this came up at the event we were at last week, was I suspect that some old-style traders believe that their ability to navigate the complexity of 10 different screens and different applications that don't talk to each other, they believe that their ability to cut and paste this, from that, do the... They think that's their job.
Yeah.
And why they're clever. And they couldn't be more wrong. Their job is to serve excellent execution for their clients.
Yeah.
And all this other crap just gets in the way of achieving that. But that's part of the fundamental change again in our industry is
What's a new wave of traders coming through as well?
Absolutely. And their tolerance for the old ways is about zero.
Yeah. And that data aspect that you're talking about there, I think it's, there's so much of a precedent being put around that I think some of the legacy businesses have really struggled to adapt to that and evolve. It's much easier to be more nimble and you're smaller and challenging than being sat there and saying, right, I can move this, and it has that sort of impact that is what people want. It's a real opportunity, and as I do say, with this changing of the guard and a new wave of trader coming through, it creates an awful lot of opportunity in the space as well, doesn't it? But we know that the sell side, you mentioned predominantly being sell side orientated, and you touched the buy side as well. There are challenges in today's market for the sell side. In an ever-changing sort of world, and whenever I have people on this show, we talk about various different elements of pain that's being solved. That's either productivity orientated, friction orientated, speed orientated, cost orientated, or sometimes all of the above. Tell us a little bit about your views of the challenges at the moment that we see in the sales side in today's market.
That's a big question. That's a big question. I think two of the main issues that people are facing, at least two of the main issues that people are being challenged on the most. One of them is cost, and that's the reality of the industry that we're in. It is a shrinking industry in terms of available money for investment in technology, in solutions, in products. So everyone has to do more with less, whether that's fewer people on the desk. And again, I want to be clear, AI and automation isn't going to change that. AI and automation is going to secure and increase the efficiency of the people who are on the desk. So I want to hit that fear, right at the beginning. But the main thing that people are facing is cost. The other thing is there's a genuine vendor risk. Now in financial services, you can't do anything that isn't enabled by technology. So if your technology doesn't enable that workflow, that feature, that capability, you can't offer it to your customers. So the other thing is, how do I retain business? How do I justify an increase in margin through better products, better services, bringing innovation to my clients? But ultimately that's enabled by the vendors. Or at least, if it's not directly enabled by the vendors, it's enabled by the vendors' willingness to integrate with third-party systems, having the APIs capable of that integration, having the data capable of distributing it, having the willingness to support third parties in not trying to be, I'm the one vendor for all of your needs.
Yeah.
And actually you've had this vendor consolidation, bigger and bigger firms buying up all the technology providers.
Yeah.
There's no new entrants to the market, and no one could buy, you know, if I founded Quod 3 years ago, if I had exactly the same technology stack, it would be unpurchasable,
Yeah.
because we hadn't been in the industry for long enough.
Yeah.
So the industry pushes out
And you've had
innovation.
the classic sort of issue. Yeah,
Yeah, you don't have a reference client, you've not been around long enough, you can't get.
Yeah.
So finding a business that is structured in a way that it can both innovate, that it has not decided to simply sit on its market share,
Yes.
and not make changes and squeeze every bit of profit out, which is a threat to the clients, but there's nothing they can do about it unless they're willing and motivated to make change.
Yeah.
And actually for us as a business, that's the biggest challenge. It's not that we're not innovating and not growing, it's the buying cycle
Yeah.
in the industry. You know, you're in a 5-year contract, you're unwilling to
Yeah.
make change, you perceive the risk to your business of driving that change, and it's the act of change that actually drives the innovation and breathes life into the vendor marketplace. So
It can be an incredibly frustrating sort of spot, that kind of as well, because a lot of this is about replacement of legacy systems, which isn't
So
an easy sort of play.
you're saying it's a frustrating spot to have the best product in the market and not really be able to have people buy it. It's fine. Yeah.
I think the other thing though that is really starting to sink in is how the market is changing. So you've almost got this sort of barbell effect of, at one end, you've got a whole bunch of firms, buy sides and individuals investing in, say, fixed income ETFs. Last I heard, last month, there was $190 billion went into fixed income ETFs in the year, so $190 billion. And then at the other end, you've got this sort of merge of trading equities, but at the same time trading underlying bonds in a similar fashion, the sort of private market merging with public markets. And that change is going to continue. So unless you've really got an eye and a foot in the merged asset class space, let's call it that, you're going to have a problem, because if you've just renewed for 10 years on your equities platform, it's not fit for purpose now, and increasingly it won't, because it just can't address those other things. So what you end up doing is buying another system over here, and another system over here, and another system over here. And hey ho, you wonder why. You wonder why your cost income ratio is so poor.
Yeah.
So there are a number of very strong structural things that are changing, which means the underlying OMS has to be capable of dealing with that.
And talk to us about what that means. I mean, you intimated there, but the OMS world has to change alongside the challenges that you're seeing within that. So, I mean, what does that look like?
I think from a product perspective, a big part of what we've tried to do is to bring to market as quickly as possible client requests around, again, data integration, APIs, automation. We've got machine learning programs that we've been running to look at how we can provide assistance, because the other big challenge that I've seen on the desks is they don't tend to have the quant resource or development resource to assist with the implementation. So one of the blockers to making a change is, well, it's just me and 3, 4, 5 other guys or ladies on the desk. How do we even make this change?
Yes.
So I think from a vendor perspective, it's about us changing our business model as well to provide tools and resources to support people saying, okay, well, here's the direction we're trying to go. We're gently taking what I'd refer to as a buy and build model. So take this out of the box product. You know, it solves all of these problems, but if you want to customize, or if you want to, around the edges, plug in other tools. Customization could be get vendor A and vendor B to talk together, and now we'll produce something that's a combi product for you. It doesn't mean you have developers, but it's just enabling that kind of outsourced IT function beyond just being, well, here's my product. Do you want to buy 200 consultancy hours to implement it? And we don't do that. One of the philosophical approaches we took is all developments are free, all integrations are free, because we want to evolve. If we can get you to use the product more, then we're adding features that we can help other customers with, which gets us more market share.
So obviously that implementation and consultancy side has been a big business for a number of different companies over the years. It's been probably even more lucrative than various other
Often,
ones.
yeah.
And it's often built out secondary channels, like the whole world of contractors. To this. So this is sort of evolution here is where we're saying, look, and I guess it comes back to everything we were talking last week about buy and build, about a much more collaborative sort of play.
Absolutely.
And I think one of the features, and Steve, this is very much the sort of, I guess, the construct of Vision57 is about putting the right players together to make sure you're putting something in there that answers the actual problems that people are dealing with, rather than saying this is what we do and you have to like it. So how can we adapt to you and how can we put that all together, right?
Yeah, I mean, Medan, you came up with a good example this morning about the feature. It's a bit of a detail, but I think it speaks a lot to the Quod approach about the closing auction.
Yeah.
I think the idea is that it will tell you. Well, why don't you explain it rather than me?
No, sure. So again, it's customers coming to us and saying, I need to visualize, I need to represent information in the platform that allows my traders to do their business better. So something simple, I, in real time, want to see the predicted residual of a participation. And I want to see that at the top line. So I've got 10,000 orders. I want to create alerts or notifications based on that predicted residual. And as it changes, I can make an active decision which comes to the traders from not being managing 10 screens, but how can I make the best and most effective decision? So with that one data point, I want to be able to decide, should I change the algo or should I execute something outside of it, or should I change the speed
to the closing auction,
or just wait to the closing auction. But that is a one piece of information example of the kind of change that you want to make collaboratively with the end customers, that they can come to you, on the desk and say, I wish I always had these things. And it's trying to build a vendor relationship where the traders aren't sitting there thinking, well, this is what I've got, I have to make do, which is the legacy attitude.
Yeah. And that is so true, because again, I speak to traders and they're not aware there's a different world out there. And I do it this way because I've always done it this way. Oh, you mean I can actually have the information coming to me on an exceptions-based, actionable insight basis?
Yeah.
And once you sort of open their eyes up to what you can do today, then suddenly everything starts to change. And the expectation from the floor starts to change. And the expectation that, oh God, we've got an upgrade, which means the system is going to be down and break, it's going to take 6 months to iron out all the problems that my vendors just created. People just accepted that as, well, that's trading systems for you.
Yeah.
Well, it's not, and it shouldn't be.
Well, it sort of coincides. I mentioned this, but I mention this quite often on the thing, as I think our expectations have been dramatically changed by the mobile phone we all carry with us every single day. That instant gratification of having the interoperability of everything that we deal with. Our expectations should be exactly the same in how we deal with it. And when you can have that sort of process where you are saying, this is how I want this to work, it maps perfectly into this, but we've lagged behind it a little bit. Yes. I think it's the companies like yours who are now starting to change it. Sorry, I can't.
No, but actually to both of those points, one of the challenges that everyone experiences, I'll say this at trade shows sometimes as well, when did you last upgrade? When did you last upgrade? If you're only upgrading once every 2 years, if your vendor only has the ability to upgrade you once every 2 years, and it doesn't matter how much we're innovating, you're not getting it.
Yeah.
And when you do get it, it's potentially 2 years old. and that one little thing that you need done differently for you, you won't get for another 2 years, because that's how long it takes us to implement. So we've actually invested a huge amount in restructuring our business, because we weren't able to do this even 4 or 5 years ago. Specifically to manage our engineering process so that we could deliver upgrades every couple of months. And it doesn't have to be that, but we've introduced AI tools for generating test cases. You talk about AI in production, and it's, compliance is going to have an issue with that. Well, it doesn't have to be on the trading side. It doesn't have to be. What if I can make my product better? If I can code more, if I can use AI to test? And because of those tests, I can upgrade, and I can deliver quicker, which means more innovation, more change, faster pace.
Especially the speed of innovation around AI as well. You can't wait for 2 years for what's in that space as well, can you?
And you mentioned before about being AI ready, that concept. AI ready doesn't mean you have a solution. AI ready means you have a system that's capable of that solution in the future.
And I'm working for another firm, Toby, that's absolutely into this whole AI thing totally. And you look at how few successful AI implementations there are. There's loads of money being invested in AI startups, tens of billions, maybe hundreds.
Yeah.
And you look at the reasons for failure, and the number one reason is I couldn't sort the data out.
Yeah, true.
And if you can't sort the data out, however smart your data scientists are, and engineers, and algo programmers, and all that sort of stuff, it's just not going to work. So if you can't, these sorts of things like AI ready, having a whole ton of workflows. So one of the things Medan said to me is, some of the legacy platforms support maybe 2,000 different workflows. And I think he said last count we've got 1,800 of them, and that's a lot of hard work. But again, workflow is table stakes again in this.
I think actually that's a wonderful way of putting it. Workflow is table stakes. Someone wants to change. All of the innovation, all of the bells and whistles, it doesn't matter if I can't do my job tomorrow. And that's actually what breaks a lot of vendors, that you don't have the opportunity to replace legacy systems enough to build enough of the functional workflows that you can come in and say, yes, you've got these 2,000 things that you need to work tomorrow, and I can do basically 2,000 of them, or close enough that you can sign with confidence and move, and then get all of these fancy features, which may take you 5 or 6 years to know how to integrate and use and make use of, or advertise to your clients. We've taken on some business in America where it takes them time to know, well, how do I even explain what I'm doing to my customers? It's so new. I'm going to have to understand how to market this to my clients. And that's a fantastic position to be in. But as you were saying, having that core, being able to come to the table with, we've built this level of functionality, is in any part of our industry, not just the OMS, but whether that's TCA or anything, that is table stakes.
I think the other thing that's worth covering is, so I use a bit of software, some mind mapping software for planning out different things and everything. And I found out today it's been discontinued.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, this is a real bugger, if you excuse my language, but I'm now going to have to find something else that is it going to be compatible with all my old stuff? But the key thing I'm thinking about is, can I buy an alternative that's going to look and feel like what I have? And I think that's worthy of a few comments from you in terms of how do you enable people to sit the day after they've got the new system, feel like, oh, this is actually quite a familiar jacket, and it sort of it all fits.
Because this is, to jump in, it's almost exactly the same as you talked about with the traders, though, saying this is how it works.
Yes.
And when you were talking about that, it's I've lost what I've always had, rather than how can we improve it and take it further forward. And I think that's the key part for me, is that everyone wants that familiarity of saying, right, I've done this for this long, this is how I do it, this is how I get to my work done. But if I can have X and Y and Z that augments that improves that, and it feels like the same jacket, but I look a hell of a lot cooler.
I look slimmer.
Yeah, that's it.
This is exactly the problem that we've spent years trying to solve. And that problem is, I want it to look exactly the same but be totally different. And to do that without customizing, because the problem is you give someone a new system and they say, okay, well, I need this and this and this to look different, and they give you lots of very reasonable reasons that they've been doing something for 25 years, and if it changes, it creates business risk, and that's fine. That is a true statement, and you can't, as a vendor, come in and say, well, tough, I'm changing your workflow.
Or we do it this way.
Or we do it this way. But if you then customize the platform, you end up with a custom version. Now you have a custom version, you can't upgrade it, because when you upgrade it, something breaks. And you've done it 200, 300, 400 times, you've now got 50 custom versions. And I think a lot of legacy systems, again, fell into this trap of customize. Now I don't have one system, I have 500 systems, I'm trying to maintain them all, and let's just sell it to someone and make it be their problem. So how did we try and solve this? Not that I was hitting anyone specific. How do we try and solve this? So from a product perspective, the way that we tried to solve it was to make the customization part of the product. So I'll take something simple, like an order ticket. You open an order ticket, everyone wants it to look different. Okay, so in our system, you right-click, you get a customization menu, you drag and drop how you want it to look, and you click save by asset class, by trader. But it's not so much about the feature, but it's about the mentality of make the customizations part of the product, so that then when someone customizes it, it is no more or less customized than anything else. And that's how you address this I need it to be unique but familiar. I need it to be standardized but customized. You're trying to balance that.
Yeah, agree.
We've spoken a fair amount throughout this about the whole concept of buy and build, topical as we say beforehand. And I think that's I mean, look, we filled a whole day of it last week in the conversation. But if you're to sort of paraphrase its significance in terms of what we're talking about at the moment, the opportunity that lies behind that, Steve, I'll start with you, and you can jump in. Tell me a little bit about your thoughts.
So I think it's pretty fundamental, Toby, because it's a real sort of breakthrough moment that it's not buy v build. So it's not a binary choice, which is what people, perhaps 10 years ago, 5 years ago were thinking. It's do both and enable yourself to integrate in some little micro app or whatever that is cool and useful for you, but I need it in my workflow, not as another screen over here with a separate data source. And once you're able to do that, which gets us into the API conversation, if you're truly offering those sorts of APIs, and I think there's also a cultural element to it, of saying, we don't want to sell you everything. Yeah, sure, fine if you want to, but we're just as happy for you to think of us as a bunch of components that will plug in around existing side stream and downstream systems that you have. And that, as well as getting a better outcome, also makes the migration from situation A to the new world massively easier, because you can take a sort of more incremental approach to it. And and it's been exciting for me to see an idea that I was writing about 3.5 years ago now become enough to have whole day exhibitions about and everything else. So yeah, I think it's really cool.
Ahead of your time as always.
I don't know about that. Just lucky, I guess.
I want to just talk a little bit as well about the sort of what good looks like in the space. Sorry, do you want to?
No, I've just got one comment on buy and build, because I think buy and build is so fundamental, but people talk about it. Everyone talks about apps and integrations, and there's a litmus test for buy and build if you're buying a product. And the litmus test is, can I access any piece of data in real time? Any and every piece of data in real time? And if the answer to that is yes, not yes but, yes maybe, then you are choosing a platform that has a core buy and build capability, because you don't know what you'll need, but you know that you can get hold of it. And that's the metric, because we see a lot of systems that are just groupings of products stuck together and, you can app it, but can you really? And if you can't dig technically into that, then the simplest question to ask, categorically, any piece of data in real time from any interface, if the answer is yes, then you know it's future-proof. You know it's future-proof.
Yeah, and future-proof is such an important thing with the innovation we're seeing as well, right? So just winding back to that piece about good in this sort of space. Look, you guys are there, and this is a sort of teeing you up to smash the volley back now. When we're thinking about OMSs and how do we describe it? The OMS of today and tomorrow. We're thinking about the OMS of today and tomorrow. When we're thinking about what great looks like in the area, tell us what your thoughts are there.
Quod.
No further questions.
Thank you. Mic drop. It covers such a range of things, but I think a lot of it you have to look quite deeply. You have to look at the company. You have to look at the purpose of the company, and can they partner with you, and what are their goals, and where are they trying to take their product? In any, never mind our space, in any space. Are they trying to innovate? What innovation have they delivered over the last 5 years? Your history is a predictor of your future. It's the most accurate predictor of your future. So, we've added asset classes, we've added machine learning, we've created data. So the predictor of our future is we're going to expand on that. More asset classes, more automation, more data. And the culture of the business. And I think the other leading indicator of a vendor, when you look at, again, certain legacy providers, you look into the culture and you can see, how can this business really drive the industry? Is that the group of people that I want to be influencing where my business goes?
So I think that point is so true, because I was doing some research on sort of buyer behavior, and from all the studies and books I read and everything, you come down to this fundamental fact that firms want to don't want to buy a product from their vendor. They want to buy into a journey that vendor has.
Yeah.
And if you can't explain that journey to your customers, I think you've got a real problem. And I think there are other vendors that say, no, you will buy from us kind of because you have to, and good luck. And the tolerance for that, I think, goes away. And I think being able to show a really exciting, relevant journey of where you're going, and then people say, yeah, I'm buying into the whole journey, not just some boxes on a shelf.
Do you know what?
Metaphorically, yeah.
I just, when you said that, it shot me back about 16 years ago. And I just left a big company and moved into another one. And the person asked me where I was before. I told them where I was. And they said, you know what, that's a business where you had to work with them rather than wanted to work with them.
Yes.
And I felt I was in a business then where you wanted to work with them rather than you had to, which is a very different sort of feel, isn't it? And I think now, if you look at appetite of that, I don't think people feel the need that they have to work with anyone. And when you talk there about culture and how important that is, and how I see it, I mean, this is going off on a tangent, but how I now see the evolution of salespeople within the space, from it being very much the sort of wine bar salesperson 15, 20 years ago, through to now where there's that sort of ability to build relationships, to tell the story, to take people on a journey of where they want to go, and say how this technology solves real problems. That's all entwined into this.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
Let's wrap up with a little view to the future. So we know what's happening at the moment. There's some very exciting things. We're seeing more innovation in the space over the last few years than I think we've probably seen in the last 15, 20, but before that, which is great, because it's been an area there that I think has been waiting for a little bit of oomph to come back into it. So with that, when we look at that sort of thing, what does it look like over the next 5, 10 years? What are you excited about? What do you think the future of OMS looks like?
Multi-asset, cross-asset automation. It's really this automation piece.
Yeah.
It's what can traders do to expand that. They're moving into the role of operators and monitoring the system, intervening when they can really generate P&L. That's the functional change, a little bit like driving, right? The same enhancement of driving, the increase in automation. It's not fully automated. It's too complex for it to easily be fully automated. Yeah. But you've got those tools that just mean you can take a bit of mental load off and take control when it really matters for the firm. And that changes the fundamental. If you have the headspace to think about, you're not just handling stuff that's irrelevant, thousands and thousands of orders that are not relevant for the business, but you're able to focus on things that are really game-changing for the company that you're working for. That both changes your enjoyment of the role, but it also changes the P&L that you're able to generate as a business, and that makes it.
That move is well described. It is summed up in the fact that a lot of traders now are execution consultants, which talks more to their ability to climb over all this data and and add real value to what they're doing. And coming back to your question, I feel now that the wheel is turning in this space. And if you think you can just stick your hard hat on and ride it out, I think you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah. And not only that, I think if you think that's what you're going to keep on using from the other side of the card, if you're sat there and thinking you can use what you've always used and stay competitive, I think you've got a problem alongside.
Exactly, that's what I was saying. Yeah.
So whether it's the companies there that are still punting out the same stuff, or the people who are on the other side of utilising it and not innovating, you're sat in a tricky situation, aren't you?
Yes.
And let's talk about Quod yourself. What's exciting for you guys in the future?
We're passionate about tech. Yeah. We're really passionate. I started my career outside of Quod. They're actually a customer of mine, and I remember looking at that business thinking, I want to be part of that. Yeah. And I think the client journey that I was describing, that same client journey of look at the culture, look at the technology, look at how they're innovating, and now that I am part of that, my excitement is for all of these ideas that we can see coming from our customers and the technology-driven change that we want to implement. It's very exciting how that's going to play out. You can't see that far in the future, but you can see that we've got the tooling that will allow us to, and the will, and the business will to implement that.
And I know you've been as excited about that as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I'm always fascinated about disruption, And my old boss was used to say, Steve, it takes longer than you think for markets to change. Well, I think they really have, again. And I think you need to have a good hard look at the tech stack or tech stacks that you probably have within a bank or a brokerage, and think very hard about what you're doing. And out of that comes new energy, new technology, new ways of doing things. That is always going to be exciting for people like me who sort of stuck themselves in the middle of it.
I think this industry has lacked joy for a very long time.
Yes.
And it's a little bit like recovering from a sports injury. I'm describing legacy systems as a sports injury. And you recover from that, and suddenly, like, I can run again.
Yeah.
You know, now what can I do?
As someone who has suffered his fair share of car racing accidents and everything else, I know exactly what you mean. And suddenly
the go-karting thing.
Yeah. You wake up one morning and think, I don't hurt anymore. Yeah, and I think that's a great way to talk about it.
That's where I feel the industry is getting to technologically. It's what I feel we can bring to our customers technologically, and I think that's exciting.
Well, that sounds like a great place to wrap up. Medan, it's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you.
Thank you
for coming on the show, Steve.
Toby, as always a pleasure, my friend.
And thank you all for watching. We will see you soon on the next episode of FinTech Focus TV. Thanks a lot.